Let's flip the room.
Yes. Yeah, I see Colin in back.
Let's maybe do three questions
sure.
per round, so
Yeah.
we can be efficient and not repetitive.
Great.
I wonder if I could just ask you a question about trade agreements. Mr. Carney, Mr. Trump were both in your region not so long ago. The only trade agreement that I happened to read, but I was astonished at what it said, was the American-Malaysia agreement, where it forced Malaysia to align with any tariffs that Trump had on third parties. So in other words, cutting legs out from Canada as far as I could see. How will this affect Canada signing any kind of ASEAN agreement or specific? I'm not sure what the other individual economies had by way of American agreements.
Great, thank you. That's a great question about the alignment with U.S. export controls, U.S. tariffs provisions in the Malaysia agreement, which is the only actual full-fledged agreement, because what we have with Thailand is a framework agreement that still needs to be made into a full-fledged agreement. But I think your point stands well, and it's under the rubric of economic security, right? So U.S. is putting that as an economic security provisions, largely geared towards China, but I think your question is relevant in terms of alignment with potential other partners, including Canada. Other comments, questions? Don't be shy. Yes, please.
Thank you. I want to come back to something you mentioned about the cycle of judicial coups and then judicial coups, and the way the conservative elements always tend to line up to work against democratically elected parties in the end. And my question is a far-reaching one in this sense. What is it going to take to break this cycle? I know that you've expressed optimism about the next election, but I can see this cycle coming back again unless something changes. Is this a generational thing, or is Thailand just going to have to work through this for another 20 years? Or does the younger generation have the same perspective on politics?
Thank you.
Great question.
Last one for this round.
Senator, yeah.
On a somewhat different theme, and I'm usually asking questions about political issues, but this is a trade issue which Vina raised but didn't focus on. And the question is for the Canadian investor. What is the security that the Thai legal system can offer, if any, to business agreements, written business agreements? My experience, and I did some business in Thailand, my experience was that the only sanctions that really counted were relationships and economic power. That the courts weren't trusted by the Thai business people, never mind by the foreign investors. Thank you.
Fantastic question. Great.
Last question first, by going to Singapore. The private, 2 weeks ago, a private equity was considering investing in Thai energy sector, and they consulted me. And they included a clause on arbitration in Singapore. So it's what your concern is absolutely spot on. And that's really the kind of reform that Thailand needs to do in order to catch up with Vietnam or Malaysia in terms of perception of corruption, in terms of rule of law. In God I trust, the rest brings data. I mean, if you look at all the data, is showing that Vietnam is improving and Thailand is really eroding in terms of these things. And, Singapore is a short answer.
And that addresses your first point earlier on about wanting to encourage FDI.
Right.
Thailand.
Right, exactly.
This is the barrier.
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of de-risking dividend goes to other countries. Human capital, perception in terms of corruption, rule of law, reliability, that's what we need to do. Regulatory guillotine to make it less cumbersome is something that Thailand needs to work on. So that's exactly spot on.
But while we're on this topic, and obviously your party was pushing for those necessary reforms for Thailand to be able to take full advantage, to what extent that's actually something that the current Prime Minister or whoever is likely to come to power.
A talk show, no action.
Right.
A lot of talks, but they don't walk the talk. We feel like there's half of the law in Thailand, or the permits, that can be reduced from 10,000 into 5,000. Those ones are the ones that protecting business from investing, and it becomes part of the discretion. What's corruption? Corruption is discretion plus monopoly, less accountability. Simple as that. That's why you have a lot of legality and a lot of permits, so that it gives, the office holders the discretion in order for the under the table
Deals,
payment and things like that. So you got to reduce that by half if we were in government.
But you're not optimistic about whether or not those reforms are likely in the next.
Everyone has done studies. Think tanks have done studies. A lot of laws were written like 100 years ago and should be reduced. Rule of law is a different thing, though. I think it takes a generational shift finally, that judges and the upcoming legal protectors started to take their profession seriously. So it takes a while. But all the contracts that I've seen, and they say arbitration in Singapore.
Right, but it is a way for the moment to work the
but
system.
we gotta really improve. We gotta really improve.
Please, yeah.
How useful is diplomatic intervention in commercial disputes? The Canadian ambassador says that we don't think our investors being treated fairly. Is the Thai government prepared to intervene in commercial disputes?
Well, it shouldn't be the case, because if that's the case, then you have two opponents. Sometimes, for example, we had Thai Airways and Rolls-Royce disputing one another. So you have and also another one from a Brazilian company in one dispute. So I looked into it, and then you have one diplomat from Brazil and one diplomat from the British trying to influence the courts. Well, it shouldn't be the case. What should be the case is that everyone should be equal in front of the law in terms of whether you are a Thai or not a Thai when it comes to these kind of deals. So, and I think it depends, Senator. I can't speak for the overall thing, but it should be case by case basis. For the second question, judicial coups, how to break the cycle. I think we have to do two things. We have to win more and win deeper. 40% is not enough. The current prime minister has 2% popularity vote, by the way, just to give you context.
2%.
2%. So you got to win more and win deeper, in the sense that whether it's the national election, provincial election, or local election, you have to participate and win it deeper. That's on the left side. On the right side, you have to dominate ideas. I think you have domination of ideas to really denormalize, coup attempts. Otherwise, normalization of coups is something that people feel like it's a pretty normal way of life in Thailand, and we gotta really do that. In order to break the cycle, if you look at how democratic breakthrough happen in developing countries, collapse from within. Only collapse from within. You can have a robust opposition, you can have freedom of the press, you can have international scrutiny, but it's usually, dominating ideas that is so dominant that finally military understand its role to be professional, to protect Thailand from external threats, but never mingle with internal affairs. That happened in South Korea in 1988. That happened in Bangladesh this year, very recently. Finally, the military or the defense forces finally put the gun down and said, I'm not going to kill my people anymore. And that's when the leader or the dictator flew on a helicopter to another country.
And
that's how you have to design the engineer of, capitalizing on elite fracture, on how finally, if there's a fracture within the bad elites and the collapse from within happen, finally the military, number two, put down the gun and say, okay, no more. I'm not going to kill my own people and things like that. So it has to be both ways in order to break that cycle, and it's going to take some time.
I was going to ask, in terms of the collapse from within, what's your prognosis of what's happening in Thailand right now? How close are you to South Korea? Or, well, let's go with South Korea. Bangladesh is not, probably.
So I won, out of 400 districts in Thailand, I won 112. And that included all the districts that are military dense. So all the military camps, whether it's Navy, Air Force, or Army, if they're dense in that area, I'm not supposed to win, right? Because I want to demilitarize Thailand, but I won landslide. So I'll take that as a credible signal that if you're not in the high ranking of monopolies or military, you understand what I'm trying to do in terms of professionalizing defense in a democracy. So I felt like that could be a good sign. And we are engaging a lot with the mid-rank people, whether it's the judges, whether it's the independent organizations, election commission, monopolies, maybe the second generation who is my age, and trying to meet with them and explain to them and try to convince them now that when it's their time to lead their own conglomerates, or when it's their time to become the top ranking in their army, or when they become the Secretary General of Anti-Corruption Commission, they understand where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to do to the country. And finally, hopefully, that's the time where democracy is allowed in Thailand.
So on that point, if I could just jump in, how does the border dispute with Cambodia right now is playing into this agenda of kind of removing the military's power? Because I'm understanding that the military narratives around patriotism or toxic nationalism or whatever you want to call it is gaining ground. Does that undermine this agenda that you have been pushing for in terms of the collapse from within? Sort of how does this external issue with Cambodia plays into that domestic dynamic?
I'm quite concerned. I mean, you can be patriotic without the toxic nationalism. I think People's Party and the like have to really explain what it's like to be patriotic without having a toxic national sentiment that could play to a certain political party advantage in trying to ride that kind of nationalism towards election victory. So you got to be really careful and show them how it's supposed to be done, using diplomacy first, legality second, control of the narrative third, and military posture at the very final thing, or the combination of all four. But if the government is not doing a good job, and finally you want to put military posture at the very beginning, then the people suffer. People in Bangkok decide, but the people at the border will have to suffer the consequences of this kind of decision. The last question was about, well, I can't answer for the Malaysians. I'm not sure how they would respond, but I feel like what I can say for the entire region, the rise of minilaterals. Indonesians are perfecting it. Vietnam is perfecting it. It's not going to be a classical multilateralism that we understand how it's done, but it's a small, flexible, issue-based alignment that is happening in the region. So you don't have to be polarized by two competing camps anymore. I think that's a kind of choreography that the region is trying to do, or the middle power in the region is trying to do, so that you don't force to be in the corner like how it happened. I feel like that's the way to go.
I mean, I think in fairness to the question, it's very difficult to answer it, and there are debates now happening in Malaysia about that agreement and what that means and how it's actually going to be implemented. But Peter's point is a broader one that while obviously the great power competition will continue, it'll go through its de-escalation moments and then heat up again. It's sort of outside of the control of most countries, including obviously Canada, that there is a desire now to create these minilateral groups that are continuing to sort of adhere to some kind of a rules-based trade, or that have a grouping that doesn't include either of the big powers, essentially, right? So CPTPP is an example of that. That's one that Canada is a party to as well.
Exactly.
In the region, and there's discussions about how do we connect CPTPP to Europe and to agreements that we have in Europe as well, to be able to essentially kind of create an alternative to a dysfunctional WTO, because that now is captured by the fragmented.
Yeah, there's many emerging interesting mini-laterals around the region.
Yeah.
There's IMEC, in Indo-Pacific. IMEC is India, Middle East, Europe corridor.
Yeah.
There's Chief 4 Alliance, issue-based, which is more on AI. You have BIMP, which is, I think, Bangladesh, India, and the Middle East, for example. You have I2U2, for example. So these are like upcoming mini-laterals where it's more flexible than the classical regional bloc that we're used to.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Other questions? Let's do one more round before we wrap up. Yeah, gentleman in the back there.
My question's on energy. I'm curious about your perspective as to what role Canada should play on energy exports to the ASEAN region, maybe Thailand in particular, and if low carbon should play a role in that.
Great, fantastic. Yes, others, please, lady in the back.
Thank you. I am from Myanmar. I'm former professor and dean, one of the top university from Myanmar. So, but my background is architecture and urban planning, but economy, I also learned, economy and also politics. So most of the investor often sees us instability, political instability or Southeast Asia as a risk to invest. So I want to know your view, how we should design this, especially Thailand, Canadian economic partnership. How can we design to manage this kinds of risk? And also on the other hand, encouraging the responsible investment and also capacity building in the longer time. Yeah,
Great,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
For Myanmar?
Uh,
Your question is for Myanmar?
Not only in Myanmar, but also
Southeast
Southeast
Asia.
Asia. But I would like to learn more about your opinion as how we can design in Thailand, Canadian partnership. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Any others? Yeah, I see two. Maybe we'll take both of them. So the lady here in the front and the gentleman in the blue cap.
So my question is might not be relevant with the trade between Thailand and Canada. Especially, I vote for Khao Kai Party. Yes, but I'm very upset that right now is People Party give my vote to another party right now. So I just want to ask that I don't know it's going to be appropriate or not. So if you become a Prime Minister of Thailand, so would you be confident that you would govern Thailand under the constitutional monarchy, transforming it into a constitutional monarchy so that the people would have power and freedom of thought without having to go to jail or seek asylum because of Article 112. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, constitutional monarchy is the way to go for Thailand, but we definitely have to find proportionality of law in terms of freedom of speech and the protection of the monarchy, or the protection of the head of state, to be clear. Without that, then it's hard to move on, and that's why we submitted the amendment of the article, and that's why we got banned. But we felt that it was the right thing for every institutions in Thailand if you find the proportionality in terms of freedom of speech and the protection of the king. We're not the first party to do it, but to have the penalty be as high as 15 years, that's almost as the same as killing someone unintentionally in Thailand. that's not going to benefit any institutions. Just because you have a high penalty doesn't make the crime go away. Because if you think about, for example, a death penalty for drug-related offense, there will be no drugs. But that's not the case, isn't it? So it doesn't have to be like that for us, and we feel like that it will benefit a lot of institutions as well. We found that there was a lot of corruption related to using His Majesty name in a lot of projects that prevented scrutiny, and we never want it to happen because that's how the constitutional monarchy go forward for us. For number two, in terms of risk management, if it's for Myanmar, I think you have to find that right amount of pressure and incentive so that peaceful Myanmar can happen. And ASEAN members have that moral responsibility to turn 5-point consensus into a 5-year roadmap in order to, finally have the people of Myanmar to determine the future of their own, making sure that post-war Myanmar have the same vision and the risk of balkanization is reduced. Otherwise, it's very pitiful to see such a resourceful country like Myanmar to have this kind of violence going forward into the election on December 28th in such a martial condition. ASEAN leaders failed to preempt the result as well as to set conditions, ceasefire, free and fair, participative election before it happened on the 28th. And when it happens, it will explode in the face of all the leaders of ASEAN. So that's something that I'm worried about. For the rest of the region, I think it's something that we've been discussed about. Strategy is about linking your internal capability, Canadian internal capability, to the external environment of ASEAN. That's essentially what a strategy is. So if you know what your strength is, and you figure it out to the opportunities and the threats that is facing Thailand, you'll be able to succeed. You'll be very successful in what you do. Energy, climate finance, carbon pricing, carbon accounting, because the issue when it comes to renewables or moving away from fossil, the credibility and the accuracy in terms of how you calculate the externality or the benefit of turning into renewables is not as trustworthy or as accurate as those in Europeans or in Canadian market. So the incentives is not so crisp and concise and just. So I feel like that's where the Canadian energy sector can come in.
I think there was one more question that I saw. Was there another hand? A final? Was somebody? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a lot to say actually, but
I'm glad I came to you then.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The point is, we heard a lot of questions to Kun Pita, but I just want to say something not to compliment, but to ensure. I'm one of the younger generation in Thailand, being here to just fulfill my dream. It's about to be more progressive and to be better, because not a lot of Thai younger people have a lot of opportunity in terms of education. So I'm being here to pursue my career as IT related. Yeah, hopefully I become successful in that area. But yeah, one point is just like it's quite unfair to say that we vote to one party and they use our voice to choose something else. But because we just want to reflect our intention that we want our country to be progress. And other than that, I'm not sure that we can blame one that decided to choose either path after. I mean, the reason that happened in terms of we have this prime minister, it's just like, I believe that people party just want to choose one option that should be the best. That may not be the case. We don't know, but we just want to have that insurance that at least me, among my friends that have progressive idea, already granted our vote to this party. Yeah, either way is good. But in the other, well, one thing that I want to point out is just like, yeah, we discussed a lot about the tradings and businesses and uncertain in political area. Yeah, some people say about it, is that about generation matter? That maybe we need to wait another 20 years to be more progressed, but I don't know too. But I just want to show that I am a younger generation, not just me, but I think a lot of older generation, as like this beautiful lady that brought to you, I think this is quite a brightest point of view to see that people are awaking. And it's just because of the, I'm not sure, is it because of the social media, but it is more become hurt of anything that unclear, anything that like Kupita say, under table money. I see a lot of explosion from the social media. I mean, anything fraud, anything bad happen, people tend to reflect that out. And I hope that it keeps going on. And that will be like shading and leading people's idea to be more progressive out of that and see if it's something wrong. Yeah. And then lastly, yeah, just maybe the last thing that I want to point out is just like, I hope that the patriotic thing that happened because of the war is not that bad. And at least in my point of view, it's just like, yeah, people can be patriotic like myself. I love my nation, I love my country, but still, if something happened like the money, the budgeting for the military didn't deducted at all, and still some people know that there will be some influencer that raised the money for, they claim that they try to help the military to fight against the Cambodia. Then, yeah, the point is the critical thing that happened is still, my point is just like, yeah, sometimes people couldn't understand to be patriotic, but still have a critical thinking that sure. The reason, what is the reason? Yes. Just like that.
Yes, yes. So we want military to be properly funded. And we want to tell the country that when you in a conflict, you have many tools. It's a war of military, it's a war of narrative, it's a cyber game, it's a psychological game, there's gray zone techniques, there's diplomacy, so there's many tools that you can use. I can assure you that every decision we do is not about us. It's country over the party and party over individual. So even if the party loses popularity, but it benefits the country, that's what we discuss inside the room from what I've heard. You know, there's an evidential circumstances that if we don't go ahead with the choices that we made, the military junta will return. And that would be very bad for Thailand as a whole. So I would argue that if we allow it to go that way, our party will gain popularity. It will benefit my party, or my previous party, my friends. But we decided not to allow it to happen, and we had to be pragmatically fixed on the values that we choose our country over our party and party over individual. So it was a decision that we have to accept criticism from our voters with wholehearted, and we wish we could do better, but it just, we didn't have any options apart from doing that.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask Paul if you wanted maybe to say a few words on from government's perspective, or if you had any questions or reflections. Not to put you on the spot, but there's a mic behind you. I know as a politician you're used to speaking on your feet.
Yes. I just want to say this is such an amazing opportunity, and hearing about his journey and different aspects of Thailand is really encouraging as well, seeing that there's so much difficulty that existed and so much is being done to rebuild, overcome, and continue to see how we can grow together. For me, representing the provincial government and dealing with the trade and different international trade and tariff that we're dealing with, it's no secret that we're looking to Pacific Asia and especially also, as you mentioned, Indo-Pacific, because we know that there is so much good work going on right now. And we know that it's one of the fastest growing economy, and it's expected that by 2040, it's going to be the biggest economic region in the world. And we know that there's the biggest potential there. And as you can see here in the room, it's this personal connection that people to people and diaspora, so much diverse diaspora we have here, that makes our connection with different parts of the world that much stronger, and our trade relationship really strong. And it's really encouraging to see so much interest from everyone here. And I look forward to continuing the dialogue and working with Asia Pacific Foundation and different partners here to see what we can do. And for our the reason I'm attending with my people from my ministry is that we want to hear from experts like yourself and those that are here in the room of what's going on, what sort of research and what is emerging in different parts of the world, so that we are directly connected to that and can make policy and law that is based on science, facts, and peer-reviewed information, because there's so much noise these days, more than ever, and we don't want to rely on tweets to make the decision 100%. Or we have a knee-jerk reaction, but based on all the expertise that you guys have here. So I'm so glad to be here, and thanks for having us as
Thank you very much. I wish you all the best for your career.
Fantastic. Peter, maybe I'll come to you just for final thoughts and reflections, incorporating everything that we've heard, and also sort of as you look into this next chapter, as you said, post-hegemonic world, a post-US-led order, in this moment of instability and chaos, kind of what are some things that are giving you hope, that you're positive about, both in terms of the relations of Canada with the region, but I know you've spent a lot of time in New Zealand, you've spent a lot of time in the US, you understand sort of the outside world well, and if you kind of were to wrap up or to summarize some of your thinking on engagement with Southeast Asia, engagement with Thailand, what would that be?
Younger generation is what keeps me going, and they're like my power bank. Now returning in higher education outside of the parliament, I get to engage with a younger generation from Southeast Asia, from Asia, a few from non-Americans, and I feel like they still very much engaged and hopeful. If this keeps going in a right trajectory, hopefully that will be a fruitful emergence for everyone included. However, if we ignore them and we take them for granted, then the conservatives or the autocrats will use them as an advantage. I mean, you got to be a representative, a responsive party for the younger generation, so that they feel like, democracy matters, and finally to have an effective governance rather than populism is the way to go.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, I think that's a wonderful way to summarize our conversation. I want to thank you, first of all, for making the trip, for engaging with us. I want to thank all of you for being in the room and for your interest and support to the work that we do. I also want to thank the APF team, our comms team, as well as our event organizing team, and recognize one member of the team in particular, Sasha Lee. It's her last day with us. She's finishing her 2-year research grant with us as a research scholar. So what a wonderful way to wrap up 2 really great years with Asia Pacific Foundation. Sasha, thank you so much. She's been, Sasha has been part of our Southeast Asia team, working on this event and other work. So again, it's wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll continue to engage. We have another event coming up on December 1st and another one on December 8th. So before the Christmas break, 2 more events from APF Canada. Again, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for your time.
วันนี้ขอประกาศต่อหน้าทุกท่านในที่นี้ว่าเวลาของพวกเราได้มาถึงแล้ว
ดูคลิปจบแล้วอย่าลืมกดไลค์กดแชร์กดติดตามกดกระดิ่งให้ด้วยนะครับ